Today I want to speak about a figure who often walks among us unnoticed, the unloved man. His presence may not be glaring, his pain may not be loud, but his existence is profound. Who is the unloved man? He is the one who feels invisible in a world that celebrates connection. He is the father who provides tirelessly yet hears no words of gratitude. The unloved man walks among us often unnoticed, blending into the background of our daily lives. His struggles are not dramatic or outwardly visible, they are silent and internal, hidden beneath a composed exterior. In a world that prizes external achievements, charisma, and visible relationships, he remains a shadow, a figure whose contributions in existence often go unrecognized. This invisibility is not born from his lack of value, but rather from a collective oversight of the quieter forms of human significance. Imagine a man who works tirelessly to support his family, ensuring that their needs are met and their dreams pursued. He may wake before dawn, endure long hours, and return home late, exhausted yet unwavering in his commitment. Despite his efforts, the words of gratitude he might long to hear are rarely spoken. His sacrifices are taken for granted, seen as expected rather than extraordinary. Over time, he begins to feel invisible, a ghost in his own home. This sense of invisibility extends beyond the home and into society. The unloved man often exists in spaces where his presence is functional but not celebrated. He might be the coworker who consistently delivers results without drawing attention to himself, the friend who offers help in moments of crisis but is seldom invited to moments of joy, or the individual who listens and supports others yet rarely receives the same in return. In each of these roles, his contributions are vital, but their quiet nature makes them easy to overlook. The modern world amplifies this invisibility in unique ways. Social media and the culture of constant self-promotion emphasize visible connections, public affirmations, and external validation. Likes, comments, and shared posts become symbols of appreciation, but they often exclude those who do not actively seek or fit into these paradigms. The unloved man, who may lack the inclination or the means to present himself in these curated spaces, finds his worth measured by a scale he has no interest in participating in. This invisibility is not just a social phenomenon, it carries deep emotional and psychological consequences. To feel unseen is to question one's significance. It is to wonder if the hours, days, and years spent contributing to others' lives have any real impact. Over time, this can lead to a profound sense of loneliness, a feeling that one's life exists on the periphery of others' attention and care. For many unloved men, this emotional weight is compounded by societal expectations around masculinity. The narrative that men should be stoic, self-sufficient, and emotionally resilient leaves little room for them to express feelings of neglect or sadness. If they do voice such emotions, they risk being dismissed or misunderstood, reinforcing their isolation. Consequently, many internalize their struggles, further obscuring their pain from those around them. Despite this, the unloved man continues to contribute to the lives of others. He shows up, works hard, and fulfills his responsibilities, often without seeking acknowledgement or reward. His actions stem from a sense of duty, love, or simply the belief that these contributions matter, even if they are unseen. Yet, the lack of recognition takes a toll, eroding his sense of self-worth and leaving him vulnerable to feelings of emptiness. The tragedy of the unloved man is not that he is inherently unlovable, but that the world around him fails to fully appreciate the depth of his presence. We live in a society that often equates love with grand gestures or overt displays of affection, overlooking the quieter forms of care and sacrifice. This narrow understanding of love marginalizes those who express their value through subtle, consistent acts of service and support. Changing this dynamic requires a shift in how we perceive and value others. It begins with paying attention, with looking beyond the obvious and seeking out the unseen contributions that make life richer and more stable. A simple thank you, a moment of acknowledgement, or a sincere expression of appreciation can have a profound impact. These small acts affirm the unloved man's place in the world and remind him that his efforts are not in vain. Furthermore, we must challenge the cultural norms that discourage emotional vulnerability in men. Creating spaces where they feel safe to share their experiences, fears, and desires is crucial. This is not about weakening men, but about strengthening their connections with others and allowing them to feel supported and valued. The unloved man represents a paradox. He is indispensable yet overlooked, present yet invisible. His struggles are not unique to him, but reflect a broader societal tendency to overlook the quiet strength that sustains us. Recognizing and addressing this oversight is not just an act of kindness, it is a step toward building a more compassionate and inclusive society where every individual feels seen and valued. Society has long placed a heavy burden of expectations on men, shaping their identities and defining their roles in ways that often stifle emotional expression and human connection. From an early age, boys are socialized to conform to ideals of strength, stoicism, and responsibility. While these traits are not inherently negative, the unrelenting pressure to embody them can leave men grappling with isolation and a lack of authentic relationships. The unloved man often carries this weight silently, fulfilling the roles that society has laid out for him without complaint. He is expected to provide, protect, and perform, often at the expense of his own emotional needs. The idea of being a real man is deeply ingrained, tied to notions of unwavering self-sufficiency and resilience. In this framework, vulnerability is seen as a weakness, and asking for help becomes a taboo. As a result, men are frequently left to navigate their struggles alone, bottling up emotions that might otherwise foster connection and understanding. Consider the father who works long hours to support his family. His dedication is undeniable, but the rewards he receives are often intangible. His efforts are viewed as part of his duty, as something he is simply expected to do. Rarely is he asked how he feels, whether he is happy or what he might need in return. The focus remains on what he provides, not who he is as an individual. This dynamic creates a chasm, one where his identity becomes tied solely to his ability to meet expectations rather than his worth as a human being. This narrative extends beyond the family unit. In professional environments, men are often measured by their productivity and achievements rather than their character or emotional intelligence. They are expected to excel under pressure, to lead without hesitation, and to suppress any signs of doubt or struggle. While these qualities can be valuable, the unrelenting demand to maintain them can lead to burnout and a sense of inadequacy when perfection is unattainable. The unloved man in these settings is not one who fails, but one who succeeds without recognition, whose efforts are taken for granted as the baseline standard of competence. Friendships and social connections are another area where these burdens manifest. Many men find themselves in relationships defined by practicality rather than emotional depth. Conversations often revolve around surface-level topics, and the space to share fears, vulnerabilities, or aspirations is limited. The stigma surrounding emotional expression among men creates a barrier, reinforcing the idea that opening up is risky and potentially damaging to one's reputation or self-image. Over time, this lack of emotional intimacy can leave the unloved man feeling isolated, even among friends. The cultural expectation for men to prioritize others' needs above their own further compounds the problem. They are often seen as the rock, the unshakable foundation upon which others can rely. While this role can be fulfilling, it also comes with a cost. The unloved man may begin to feel as though his own struggles and desires are unimportant, leading to a sense of invisibility. His sacrifices are acknowledged in passing, if at all, and he may internalize the belief that his value is tied solely to his utility rather than his intrinsic worth. The consequences of these societal pressures are far-reaching. Emotional suppression can lead to mental health challenges, including depression and anxiety. Studies consistently show that men are less likely than women to seek help for psychological issues, partly due to the stigma attached to admitting vulnerability. This reluctance to address emotional pain often exacerbates feelings of loneliness and isolation, creating a vicious cycle that is difficult to break. To address this issue, society must first recognize the unrealistic and harmful nature of these expectations. Men are not machines designed solely for productivity and provision. They are complex individuals with a full range of emotions and needs. Breaking free from traditional gender norms requires creating spaces where men feel safe to express themselves without fear of judgment or ridicule. Educational systems and parenting play a critical role in this transformation, teaching boys from an early age that it is okay to feel, to ask for help, and to rely on others fosters a healthier approach to relationships and self-worth. Encouraging open dialogue and emotional literacy helps dismantle the narrative that strength lies in silence. In professional and social settings, the importance of acknowledging contributions cannot be overstated. Simple acts of gratitude and recognition remind men that their efforts are seen and valued. Equally important is creating opportunities for men to form deeper connections, where conversations go beyond the surface and allow for mutual vulnerability. Ultimately, the burden of expectations on men is not just their problem, it is a societal issue that impacts everyone. The unloved man is a symptom of a culture that prioritizes output over humanity, and addressing this imbalance benefits us all. By redefining what it means to be a man and creating a culture that values emotional authenticity, we can ensure that no one feels invisible or unloved. This change requires effort, empathy, and a commitment to seeing men not just as providers or protectors, but as whole, multifaceted individuals deserving of love and connection. The emotional toll of being unloved is profound and deeply transformative, shaping how a person views themselves and interacts with the world. For the unloved man, this toll often manifests as a heavy, unspoken burden that erodes his sense of self-worth and connection to others. While his outward appearance might suggest strength or resilience, his internal world may tell a story of loneliness, doubt, and a longing for validation that feels perpetually out of reach. Loneliness is often the most immediate and pervasive consequence of feeling unloved. Humans are inherently social beings, wired for connection and validation. To feel unloved is to feel disconnected, as though one exists on the periphery of others' lives rather than within their circle of care. This kind of isolation is not always physical. It can occur even in the midst of relationships, families, or communities. For the unloved man, it is a loneliness of the soul, a gnawing absence of meaningful acknowledgement that leaves him questioning his place in the world. This loneliness often gives rise to a sense of insignificance. When a man's efforts, sacrifices, and presence go unnoticed, he begins to doubt whether they matter at all. This doubt can spiral into self-criticism as he internalizes the lack of external recognition as a reflection of his own inadequacy. He may start to believe that his invisibility is justified, that he is somehow unworthy of love or attention. This self-perception can create a cycle of withdrawal, where he retreats further into himself, making it even harder for others to reach him or recognize his value. Over time, this emotional toll can impact every aspect of his life. In his personal relationships, the unloved man may struggle to express his feelings or articulate his needs, fearing rejection or misunderstanding. He may hesitate to seek support or admit vulnerability, choosing instead to maintain a facade of self-sufficiency that only deepens his isolation. His interactions may become transactional, focused on fulfilling responsibilities, rather than building genuine emotional connections. In professional settings, the effects of feeling unloved can be similarly debilitating. The unloved man might pour himself into his work as a way to find meaning or validation, striving for excellence in the hope that his efforts will be recognized. Yet, when this recognition does not come, or when it feels insufficient, he may become disillusioned or resentful. The workplace can become another arena where he feels unseen, his contributions overshadowed by those who are more vocal or self-promoting. The cumulative impact of these experiences often extends to mental health. Depression, anxiety, and feelings of hopelessness are common among those who feel unloved. The unloved man may wrestle with thoughts of inadequacy, believing that he is inherently flawed or unworthy of care. This emotional pain can also manifest physically, as chronic stress and emotional suppression take a toll on the body. Sleep disturbances, fatigue, and other health issues can emerge, compounding his struggles and creating additional barriers to seeking help. One of the most insidious aspects of this emotional toll is the way it can distort a man's perception of love and relationships. Feeling unloved for extended periods can lead to a sense of mistrust or skepticism about others' intentions. The unloved man may come to believe that love is conditional, transactional, or unattainable for him. This mindset can make it difficult for him to accept genuine expressions of care when they do occur, as he questions their authenticity or fears they are fleeting. Despite these challenges, the unloved man often continues to give of himself, driven by a sense of duty or a desire to be useful. He may prioritize others' needs above his own, offering support and assistance without expecting anything in return. While this selflessness can be admirable, it can also exacerbate his feelings of invisibility, as his sacrifices are often taken for granted rather than celebrated. Breaking free from this cycle requires both individual and societal effort. For the unloved man, it starts with recognizing that his worth is not determined by others' recognition or validation. Self-compassion and self-awareness are crucial tools for rebuilding a sense of identity that is not solely reliant on external approval. Therapy or counseling can provide a safe space for him to explore these feelings and develop healthier ways of relating to himself and others. On a broader level, society must challenge the norms and structures that contribute to the unloved man's invisibility. Cultural expectations that equate masculinity with stoicism and emotional detachment must be replaced with a more inclusive understanding of what it means to be a man. Creating environments where vulnerability is welcomed and emotional needs are acknowledged can help reduce the stigma surrounding these issues. Ultimately, the emotional toll of being unloved is a silent crisis that affects not only the individual but also the communities and relationships around him. By fostering empathy, breaking down barriers to connection, and valuing people for who they are rather than what they provide, we can begin to address this profound and often overlooked pain. The unloved man does not have to remain unseen or unheard. He deserves the same compassion and recognition that he so often offers to others. The role of society and culture in shaping the experiences of the unloved man is profound and far-reaching. From early childhood, societal norms and cultural expectations influence how men perceive themselves and how others view them. These norms often create rigid frameworks for masculinity, leaving little room for emotional expression, vulnerability, or the acknowledgement of the complex inner lives of men. As a result, the unloved man often finds himself caught in a web of expectations that reinforce his isolation and invisibility. At the heart of this issue lies the traditional view of masculinity. Many cultures have long held that a real man must embody traits such as strength, stoicism, and self-reliance. While these traits can have value in certain contexts, their elevation to defining characteristics often comes at a cost. Men are taught to suppress their emotions, avoid displays of vulnerability, and prioritize their responsibilities over their personal needs. The unloved man, shaped by these ideals, internalizes the belief that seeking love, recognition, or emotional connection is a sign of weakness. This narrative begins early in life. Boys are frequently encouraged to toughen up and discouraged from expressing emotions such as sadness or fear. Phrases like "boys don't cry" or "be a man" subtly but powerfully teach them to detach from their feelings. Over time, this detachment becomes second nature, creating a barrier to meaningful connections. The boy who is told to suppress his tears grows into the man who feels unable to share his struggles, perpetuating the cycle of isolation. Cultural norms also shape how love and recognition are distributed. In many societies, love is often expressed through visible, outward acts of affection or praise, which can leave those who contribute in quieter, less noticeable ways feeling overlooked. The unloved man, who may embody his love through consistent, unspoken acts of service or sacrifice, finds himself excluded from these more overt displays of appreciation. His efforts are seen as expected rather than extraordinary, leading to a lack of acknowledgement that deepens his sense of invisibility. The workplace is another arena where cultural expectations reinforce the experiences of the unloved man. Men are often expected to be providers, defined by their ability to achieve and excel professionally. This pressure can lead them to prioritize work over personal relationships, further isolating them from sources of emotional support. While their contributions to the workplace may be significant, they are frequently taken for granted or overshadowed by those who are more vocal or self-promoting. The unloved man's quiet dedication is often overlooked in favor of flashier accomplishments, reinforcing the idea that his worth is tied solely to his productivity. In social settings, the stigma surrounding male vulnerability compounds the issue. Many men find themselves in friendships or relationships that lack emotional depth, as societal norms discourage open discussions about feelings or struggles. Instead, conversations often remain surface level, revolving around shared activities or mutual interests. While these interactions can be enjoyable, they do not fulfill the deeper need for connection and understanding. The unloved man, yearning for someone to truly see him, may feel even more isolated in these contexts, surrounded by people yet profoundly alone. Media and popular culture also play a role in perpetuating the experiences of the unloved man. Movies, television, and advertising frequently depict men as strong, self-sufficient figures who do not need emotional support or validation. These portrayals reinforce the idea that a man's value lies in his ability to endure hardship without complaint. While these images can inspire resilience, they also leave little room for men who struggle or who seek acknowledgement for their quieter forms of strength. The cumulative impact of these cultural forces is that the unloved man becomes invisible, his contributions undervalued, and his emotional needs ignored. Society's narrow definitions of masculinity and love leave him feeling as though he must choose between fulfilling his expected roles and seeking the connection and recognition he desires. Addressing this issue requires a cultural shift that challenges traditional norms and broadens our understanding of what it means to be a man. Men must be encouraged to embrace vulnerability as a strength, not a weakness. This involves creating spaces within families, workplaces, and communities where emotional expression is welcomed and celebrated. Educational systems and parenting practices can also play a critical role by teaching boys that it is okay to feel, to ask for help, and to seek love and support. Society must also reevaluate how it expresses love and appreciation. Recognizing and valuing the quieter, consistent contributions of individuals is essential for creating a more inclusive culture. Simple acts of acknowledgement such as saying thank you or expressing genuine appreciation can have a transformative impact on the unloved man, reminding him that his efforts and presence matter. Ultimately, the role of society and culture in shaping the experiences of the unloved man is a reminder of the power of collective norms and expectations. By challenging these norms and fostering a culture of empathy and inclusion, we can begin to address the isolation and invisibility that many men face. The unloved man does not exist in isolation. His struggles are a reflection of societal values and structures. Changing these structures is not just an act of kindness, but a step toward a more compassionate and equitable world. The unloved man often exists in a paradoxical state, surrounded by people yet deeply alone, outwardly functional but internally wrestling with feelings of neglect and invisibility. His story is not unique. It reflects a broader societal issue where quiet contributions are undervalued and emotional needs are overlooked. In the realm of relationships, whether familial, romantic, or platonic, the unloved man finds himself consistently giving, supporting, and providing, only to receive little acknowledgement in return. This dynamic creates a profound sense of emptiness, as the reciprocity that forms the foundation of human connection is absent. In many cases, the unloved man plays roles that demand significant sacrifice and responsibility. As a father, partner, or friend, he may devote himself tirelessly to ensuring the well-being and happiness of those he cares about. He may wake up early, work long hours, or take on additional burdens to provide stability and comfort for his family. These efforts, while deeply rooted in love and duty, often go unrecognized, not because they are insignificant, but because they are seen as expected. This expectation is one of the most insidious aspects of the unloved man's experience. Society often views men as providers and protectors, roles that inherently involve giving more than receiving. When a man fulfills these roles, his contributions are often taken for granted, becoming part of the invisible framework that sustains others' lives. Rarely does he hear expressions of gratitude or appreciation for his sacrifices. Instead, his efforts are normalized, and the absence of acknowledgement begins to feel like a natural state of being. The lack of reciprocity in relationships extends beyond the familial sphere. In romantic relationships, the unloved man may find himself giving emotionally, financially, or physically without receiving the same level of care and attention in return. His love language may manifest through acts of service or quiet support, but if these expressions are not understood or valued by his partner, he can feel unseen. The dynamic becomes one-sided, with his needs remaining unmet and his emotional reservoir slowly depleting. Over time, this imbalance can lead to resentment or withdrawal, further straining the relationship and deepening his sense of isolation. Friendships can also reflect this lack of balance. The unloved man may be the one friends turn to in times of crisis, relying on his reliability and problem-solving abilities. Yet, when he faces his own struggles, he may find that the same level of support is not extended to him. This pattern reinforces the idea that his worth lies solely in what he can provide to others, rather than in who he is as an individual. It also discourages him from seeking help, as he may believe that his role is to endure silently rather than burden others with his problems. The consequences of these unbalanced relationships are profound. The unloved man may begin to internalize the lack of acknowledgement, questioning his own worth and significance. He might wonder if his efforts truly matter, or if he is simply fulfilling a role that anyone could take on. This erosion of self-worth can lead to a cycle of emotional suppression, where he distances himself from his own feelings in an attempt to protect against further disappointment. However, this suppression only serves to isolate him further, as it creates barriers to authentic connection. This dynamic is not only harmful to the unloved man, but also to the people around him. When relationships are built on one-sided contributions, they lack the mutual respect and appreciation that foster growth and resilience. The unloved man's silent struggles can create an emotional void that affects the entire relationship, as his needs go unmet and his contributions are undervalued. Over time, this can lead to the breakdown of relationships, with both parties feeling unfulfilled and disconnected. Breaking this cycle requires effort on both individual and collective levels. For the unloved man, it is essential to recognize that his worth is not determined solely by what he provides to others. Developing self-awareness and practicing self-compassion can help him set boundaries and communicate his needs more effectively. Seeking therapy or counseling can also provide a safe space to explore these feelings and develop strategies for building more balanced relationships. On a societal level, changing the narrative around men's roles and contributions is crucial. Appreciating and acknowledging the quieter, consistent acts of love and support that men provide can help create a culture of reciprocity. Small gestures, such as expressing gratitude or making an effort to understand a man's emotional needs, can have a transformative impact. Ultimately, the unloved man's experience serves as a reminder of the importance of reciprocity and acknowledgement in relationships. Love and connection thrive on mutual care, where each person's contributions are valued and their needs are met. By fostering empathy, open communication, and a culture of appreciation, we can ensure that no one feels invisible or unworthy of love. The unloved man does not have to remain in the shadows. His story is a call to action for all of us to build relationships rooted in mutual respect and genuine connection. The journey of the unloved man is often marked by profound loneliness, a silent struggle that goes unnoticed by the world around him. However, this loneliness is not an inevitability. Breaking the cycle of invisibility and isolation is possible, but it requires both individual courage and societal change. The unloved man's path to connection begins with a recognition of his own worth, a willingness to challenge harmful norms, and the creation of spaces where vulnerability and authenticity are valued. The first and perhaps most critical step for the unloved man is to confront the internalized belief that he is unworthy of love or recognition. Years of neglect or unacknowledged efforts can leave deep emotional scars, fostering a sense of inadequacy. This belief often stems from societal expectations that equate a man's value with his ability to provide, achieve, or endure. Breaking free from this mindset involves cultivating self-awareness and self-compassion, recognizing that his worth is not tied to his utility or others' validation. Self-awareness allows the unloved man to identify patterns in his relationships and the societal norms that have shaped them. He may realize that he has been prioritizing others' needs over his own, often to his detriment. This recognition is not about blaming others or resenting past choices, but about understanding how these dynamics have developed and how they can be changed. Through introspection, he can begin to see himself as a whole, complex individual deserving of love and care, irrespective of his roles or contributions. Self-compassion is equally important in this process. It involves treating oneself with the same kindness and understanding that one would offer to a friend in need. For the unloved man, this might mean forgiving himself for perceived failures, allowing himself to feel emotions he has long suppressed, and embracing his vulnerabilities as part of his humanity. By nurturing a more compassionate relationship with himself, he lays the foundation for healthier, more fulfilling connections with others. Challenging societal norms is the next step in breaking the cycle of invisibility. Many of the struggles faced by the unloved man are rooted in rigid definitions of masculinity that discourage emotional expression and vulnerability. To move forward, he must reject the notion that asking for help or seeking connection is a sign of weakness. This involves unlearning harmful stereotypes and embracing a more expansive view of what it means to be a man, one that includes the capacity for empathy, emotional depth, and mutual support. This shift is not easy, as it often requires navigating resistance from a culture that continues to uphold traditional gender roles. However, It is a necessary step for both the unloved man and society as a whole. By modeling vulnerability and emotional openness, he not only redefines his own identity, but also challenges others to rethink their assumptions about masculinity. His willingness to be authentic creates a ripple effect, encouraging those around him to do the same and fostering a culture of empathy and connection. Creating spaces where the unloved man can build meaningful relationships is another crucial part of breaking the cycle. These spaces may take the form of therapy or support groups where he can share his experiences in a judgment-free environment. They may also involve cultivating deeper connections within existing relationships such as family, friendships, or romantic partnerships. Open and honest communication is key to this process, as it allows the unloved man to articulate his needs and desires, paving the way for mutual understanding and support. In addition to seeking support, the unloved man can benefit from finding outlets for self-expression and personal growth. Creative pursuits, hobbies, or volunteering can provide a sense of purpose and fulfillment, helping to rebuild his confidence and sense of agency. These activities also offer opportunities to connect with others who share similar interests, fostering a sense of community and belonging. Breaking the cycle of invisibility also requires societal action. Communities, workplaces, and families must work to create environments that value emotional authenticity and recognize the contributions of all individuals, regardless of gender. This involves challenging stereotypes, celebrating diverse expressions of masculinity, and fostering a culture of gratitude and acknowledgement. By normalizing vulnerability and encouraging open dialogue, society can create a more inclusive space where no one feels unseen or unloved. Ultimately, the process of breaking the cycle is not just about addressing the unloved man's struggles, but also about creating a world where love and connection are accessible to all. It is a journey of transformation, one that begins with individual effort, but extends to a broader cultural shift. The unloved man has the power to reclaim his worth and build relationships that are rooted in mutual respect and care. In doing so, he not only heals himself, but also contributes to a more compassionate and equitable society. His story is one of resilience and hope, a testament to the possibility of change and the enduring strength of the human spirit.